Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about some energy stocks I currently like. And the first one is BLUENORD ASA. We have mentioned this not too long ago. Why is this interesting? It is in Denmark and it has like a decent resource, about like 195 million barrels of oil, where about they produce like 55% oil and 45% gas, and they are projecting to produce like 45,000 barrels per day, projecting between like 35 and 45 like ish. And obviously this year, why I find it interesting though, it's that they, as you can see that, they are paying a hefty dividends this specific year. But as Rick Rule says, like dividends are like cannibalizing the company to like benefit shareholders at the current moment at the cost of future production, or like it could have like an issue. But why I find it interesting is that due to the fact that for tax reasons they pay less taxes this specific year, they pay a hefty dividends this year. I think combined from the start of the year to the end, they would pay like 25 or 26% dividend yield. By 2027 they are going to have lower dividend yield, but it's still going to be high though. With my AI tool calculated what could perhaps be the dividend yield in like 2027, and it was like between 10 and like 15% ish. It would still pay dividends. They're going to like do more capex in the future, which is very nice. So let's go over to the next one. BV Energy. Now, why on earth is it interesting? Obviously they are currently producing like 30,000 barrels per day. They have about like, combined with these resources of like several projects, they have like 633 million barrels of oil. This is a Norwegian company that is not producing in Norway, by the way. This is producing in, you can see that they have projects in Brazil, Gabon, and Nambia. So like major like potential for like resource or like expanding resource. And like one of the major projects are like in Brazil at Maruba, as you can see there. And they are projecting now. They were initially, I think it was 90,000 barrels with all the projects up and running in a couple of years. In like one, I think most of the projects are, as you can see there, most of them are projecting to have first oil by at least the Brazil projects are later part of 2027, but a couple of the other ones are projected to start first producing in like within this year. So as you can see that they are projecting that they will produce over 100,000 barrels per day, compared to like before it was like 90,000. So imagine that, because oil is still going to be utilized in the future. And I think what I read was that like oil is not really being like replaced with, because the more people, the more energy is needed. I think the Iran war will increase the willingness of other countries to diversify from oil and these things, but it's still going to be a critical part of their economy and these things. Probably going to be a couple of decades before they can fully decouple. So it seems like these companies could have a very interesting future, in my opinion. I mentioned these companies because after the Iran peace, these companies have had a little bit of a correction, and I thought I would mention them. So let's go over to the next one. And the next one is Constellation Energy. It's the largest producer of clean and reliable energy, where they have 55 gigawatts of capacity from nuclear, from natural gas, oil, geothermal, hydro, wind, and solar. So pick your flavor. Providing power for over 27 million homes in the United States. Provides over 10% of the nation's clean energy. Data centers are going to need much more electricity, so then these companies I think could benefit. And even as you can see there at the revenue, since like data centers became like a thing like in 2023, 2024, look at that. Look at how much they've been increasing their revenue. Now they're making like $29 billion compared to a couple of years ago it was 23. Have the largest fleet of nuclear and natural gas generation in the United States. And the fact that with data centers, which is like a buzzword everyone is now saying, and with AI, the more energy it needs, the more these companies that are generating the electricity are going to be valued higher, logically speaking. So, and the fact that this company has had a correction from, as you can see that earlier, where you can see at about like October, it was $368 and now it's $274. So it's had a bit of a correction, but like each day that goes, this company seems to be like, in my opinion, more valuable due to the fact that they're going to need more power for these precious data centers. So let's go over to the next one. And the next one is OIL Energy ASA, which is a Norwegian oil producer, oil and gas producer, pardon me. And obviously I also like this due to the fact that they pay about 10% dividend yield, but still manage to make massive investments in exploration and like expanding the resource, which I like. And obviously this is like a reason why I mentioned these companies is because they are, I've only seen one other person on YouTube that's mentioned these companies, or like OIL Energy. And why is this also interesting is the fact that a couple of days ago they had like news, oh pardon me, there we go, they had news, this is from 1 day ago, where they are putting on more wells for the Balden project to increase their production, or like have more stable production there. They are projecting to, in this year, producing between 390 and 410 K barrels per day. And they have like a unit OPEX, it's like $10. paying roughly $300 million per quarter in dividends. So I really enjoy it. It has like a very large resource. They have about, like, as of like 2025, they had about 2.2 billion barrels of oil, and they've been dramatically reducing like costs per barrel and increasing efficiency. They produced 170,000 barrels per day in 2018, and now they're producing over 400,000 barrels.